And the music.
Okay. I'll just.
There's no combination. A song that I could sing, but I can try for your heart. Our dreams, and they are made out of real things, like a shoebox.
Welcome, everyone. Just stamp a little avatar on here on how you're joining us, how you're feeling. That's better, Cheska. Energetic. Chill. Lots of curious today. Excited. Love it. As you're coming in here, just stamp your avatar and then we'll go ahead and get started. I want to see how everyone is joining us today. Chill, cozy. Ooh, we've got a cozy. It's a little rainy where I am, so. All right. Let us know where you're joining from, maybe even in the chat. Got California, Ohio, and DC, of course, with Alex. Some summer nights there. All right. All right. Looks like we've got everyone kind of joining here. So. All right. Wonderful. So we've got a lot to fit in today. So I'm going to go ahead and end our music here as you're doing that. And so we see how you're joining here today and how you're joining us. I'm really excited for this session. Tell me who is familiar with Butter already. Use your so hover over React or just use your number 1. Who's familiar with Butter? Give me a thumbs up if you are familiar with Butter. All right. Give me a thumbs down if you are not familiar with Butter.
That might be easier, no?
Yeah. Okay, we got 1, PJ. All right. I'll just give you a quick little, you've got your left-hand bar navigation over there. You've got your chat, which you can open and close during the session, and you can hover over your React to react during the session. So that will give you a little reactions there. And if you have any questions, this is where casual here. But if you have any questions, there's a little queue button and you can pop into the queue if you have a question or comment, and we'll be monitoring that for Alex as she's doing her session here. And like I said, I am really excited about this session. I actually met Alex through another community that we're in together. I should probably highlight myself here so you could see me. So I met Alex in another community that we're in together. And I loved her concept of her company, Barometer XP, and bringing play to work. And many of you who know me know I just love play. So I was immediately drawn to Alex, and she's the CEO and co-founder of Barometer XP. And she's going to take us through some activities today, which have a little bit of play in them. And I'm so excited for her to get started here with us. And I'm going to go ahead and close this, and I'm just going to pass it over to her to get started. Oh, you're muted. Let's unmute you.
Unmuted. Sorry about that. I love that you're all here, and it means that you're at least willing to consider play as a valuable tool. I feel like there's still so many people that feel like play and joy and laughter and work have to be complete opposites. And I kind of want to shake them a little bit and say, everybody's miserable now doing what you're doing. So why not do things a little bit differently? And I recognize that a lot of the aversion to play and games and bringing in activities come from forced fun and awkward experiences that people have had in the past. So a big thing that my partners and I at Barometer have done is, how do you make play, how do you use it purposefully and responsibly? And there's several different frameworks, but what I'm going to be talking about today is sharing 3 different ways that you can use play to not only maximize connection and engagement, but to also bring in some pretty deep learning and development and change when you're working with teams, and whether it's intact teams or leadership teams or project teams. I think there's so much more room to bring more humanity and empathy and curiosity into the workplace, and that would make us not only happier and more engaged and ultimately more effective in our work, but I think healthier, better people as well. That's really what drives me. So I'm going to jump right in so that most of our time today is not me talking, but of us sampling some games and having a discussion about them. So this is, we call it the iceberg. It's obviously an analogy of an iceberg to show the 3 different levels of depth that you can accomplish with play. And this is the first decision to make when you're bringing any type of play in, is what type of outcome are you looking to achieve? And so these 3 levels, bond, build, and develop. So team bonding, team building, and team development. Team bonding is purely for creating fun and joy, getting to know each other, strengthening those relationships. In work, especially with virtual and hybrid, you don't have those serendipitous moments to turn to the person next to you and chat with them in a meeting, or walk down the hall and just catch up with somebody. So the interactions that you have tend to be so focused on the tasks and on projects and outcomes, where there's really high stakes. And when that's all the interaction that you're having with your colleagues and people, it's hard to build trust. It's hard to build, it's hard to feel connected. It's hard to know, what are people really good at, or, you know, who likes me, who can I learn from? And that's just so unbelievably fundamental to the work experience. So just playing together, having those shared moments of joy, starting to look at, what's the vibe of this team? You know, recognizing that you like each other, you can do things together, you can have moments of joy, is so, so important. And there are ways, you know, there's a lot of games that you can do virtually. And so this isn't something that's only limited to, you know, when you have an all hands in-person thing. There's a lot of activities you can do virtually, as we'll explore momentarily. So team building, going a little bit deeper than that, is still bringing in games and activities, but with a layer of reflective conversation. And the reflection is specifically looking at individual experience. So first, it's, how did I feel during that game? What did I think? What assumptions did I make? What was my experience? How did I act? And then it's broadening out to say, and how did my experience compare to other people's experiences? And so, for example, you know, any game there's some problem solving element at the core, whether it's, you know, a creative thinking, or it's a competitive and somebody's trying to win. Is it you're trying to solve a problem? Is it you're trying to figure out, you know, how to throw balls in a cup the fastest? There's something that you're trying to figure out. And so by looking at how did different people approach figuring it out and how did they experience it, you can learn so much about how we all naturally feel and think and act, and what those differences are and what those similarities are. So let's say Rachel and I are playing, I don't know, Jenga. Everybody familiar with Jenga? Give me a thumbs up if you're a Jenga person. It's one of those games where there's like blocks in a tower. Maybe Rachel is a lot more prone to risk than I am. And I tend to be picking the safest pieces, and I'm taking a lot of time for each one of my turn. And Rachel's just like, yeah, let's make this thing really tall. Well, now I know that sometimes when Rachel and I work together and I want to spend more time talking about something and she wants to move on, it might be because of our different levels of acceptance and willingness to take risks. And so now that we know that about each other and we can work that into our working relationship and conversations, maybe we can avoid some moments of tension. So this team building is building stronger connections between individual members of the teams and those relationships, so that when applied, you're going to have smoother sailing in your collaboration. Give me a thumbs up if you're on board so far. All right, seeing some thumbs. Thank you. I love this immediate feedback. This is super helpful. I'm pretty new to Butter, so this is great. Then the deepest level, team development, that's where the outcomes that you want are at the collective level. So you're looking to make some sort of process improvement, or you want there to be a culture change, or you're working through some organizational change, and you want to make sure that people are along for the journey and that there's more sustainable impact. So the type of reflection would be, for this particular group of people, how did we do? What did we do well? What could we do better? What are the analogies between how we perform together, or what our needs are, or what outcomes we're looking for within the game, and how does that relate to our work together? And so you can actually practice those dynamics that you're trying to change in the game, so that when a situation comes up at work, you feel much more comfortable communicating in a different way, or using a different tool, or putting a process in place. And it's a way to just get people more on board. That, you know, it's a big part of change management, if any of you have ever done any training or reading about change management. So what we're going to do today is experiment. We're not going to get to play full games just because of the time and because of the number of people, but we're going to sample a game for each one of these levels and talk about it. And I want to hear from you, whether it's in the chat or whether you're unmuting yourself. I want this to be really interactive. Ready? Ready to play? Yay, all the hearts. So we are going to play a game called, oh, okay, so we're in the team bonding space now. Poetry for Neanderthals. Has anyone heard of this game before? Okay, so how it works, it's a word guessing game. If you ever play something like Taboo, where someone's describing a term and other people have to guess it. But the twist is the description can only be one syllable words. So you have to think of the simplest, most basic way of describing something. So we're going to do a couple practice rounds all together with me describing, and maybe you can put guesses in the chat. I'll open up the chat so I can see your guesses. And then we're going to put you into breakouts and have you play in smaller groups so everybody gets a chance to be the poet. So let's open up the chat. I am going to start describing a term, and when you think you have a guess for it, put it in the chat, and I'll let you know when we get the right answer. Sound good? Any questions? All right. Okay, here it goes. Sand, round, hit, throw, beach ball. Yes, amazing. Cheska, you were on it. Okay.
Wait, that's not one syllable, Alex.
No, the word isn't one syllable, just the clues are one syllable.
Okay,
sorry.
all
Okay.
right.
Excellent. Okay, this is also a really important thing. This is sort of like a meta thing, but it's playing games with a group of people is a really good way to see how people listen to instructions and what details are most important to people. We've sometimes spent an hour reflecting on the instructions with the team before we even get into the play, because some people, until they 100% understand every rule, don't feel comfortable engaging in something. And that has really huge implications at work, as you can probably imagine. And just making it, do people feel safe asking a question, saying, hey, you know what? I don't really have a full sense of what's going on here. Knowing that people have that comfort is so important if you're a leader of any type of team or project. So I'm glad that happened. Thank you, Rachel. So the word can be multiple syllables. I am just limited to 1 syllables. Perfect. I love the hearts. Okay, I'll do one more, and then I'll give you the variation as we go into the breakouts. Small, sweet, kids, bright, baked, cupcake. Yes, who said cupcake? Carly, awesome. So, cupcake. All right. Do people feel like you're ready to try your hand at being poets, or do you want to do one more together? One more together. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for your honesty. I'm glad that you feel comfortable telling me what you need. That's perfect. Okay, I want to find one that is not going to be too hard for me. All right. Drink, thick, cold, milkshake. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. You guys are brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. That was fantastic. So you're getting the hang of it. So the twist that we're going to do, you can play this with just random words, but thinking about the iceberg, thinking about we're going into team bonding as a way to learn about each other. We're going to split you into groups of 3, to trios, and each person, you're going to think of a hobby that you have, something that you like to do that you really enjoy. And you're going to take turns. Each person's going to have a turn being the poet, using those 1-syllable words to describe this hobby. And your team, your partners have to guess what that is. And we'll have 5 minutes in the breakout. So hopefully everybody will have a chance to share. And if you finish and everyone's gone, I want you to just take a minute and think about, how is the experience of learning something about each other through a game like this different than, let's say we were all you're just in a breakout room just chatting with each other? What's different about having a shared game versus just like the small talk and getting to know people? So questions?
All right. Are you ready for us to start the breakouts? All right. Cheska, do you want to go ahead and launch those?
Yep.
All right.
Welcome back. We have any extra skilled poets, one-syllable poets out there?
Absolutely.
So I'd be curious to hear just from 2 or 3 people, how was that that experience of meeting people through a game? How did that compare to just having a conversation in terms of how you felt or what you were thinking or what your takeaway was? Does anyone want to share? Mark, yeah.
Mhm.
I really appreciated the opportunity to connect in that way with play over a conversation, because it was guessing, but it was also learning something about someone else and an opportunity then to ask a question in between. Like Mimp was talking about, was using Duolingo was the answer. It was like, oh, well, how many languages? Like, what the language are you learning now? Like, learning 4 right now. That's incredible. Like, that was a really cool experience to be able to hear that. And like, as one of the examples. So that was, yeah, I really appreciated that.
Very cool.
We also, I was in Marek's room, sorry, and yeah, we also learned, I don't remember your name, I'm so sorry, someone was sharing that she just moved to Ecuador and is now scuba diving is also her hobby, and she went to the Galapagos Islands, so I get to know her in a very short span of time, but it was so nice, so thank you for the activity.
Very cool. And I want to address Adam, your point in the chat. I really like that you asked that. Thank you. Why need to have the restriction of 1 syllable? It's just a variation. It's just a way to mix things up. You could do the same thing where people just shared that and described it without the 1 syllable. There's a couple tools where rather than use words, you have to draw a picture and people have to try to get it from the picture. So just kind of showcasing the different dynamics that you can bring into a game that's going to make people think a little bit differently. If you can use the exact same game on like the team bonding when we go a little bit deeper on the iceberg, and say how was that? How was having the 1 syllable constraint? How did that make you feel? Some people might say, I really liked that challenge. I thought it was really interesting. Some people might say that was really stressful, especially being put on the fly. And again, those are really important things to know about the people that you're working with and how they think and what motivates them, what brings out their best. So it's just interesting to play around with those little game mechanics to see how it affects how people feel and think. And always with that sense of the point is not that everybody has to do perfectly or there's only one right way to engage. The point is making space for people to share what their experience was and learning from that. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the next theme. I see the question about how do you deal with people who resist play, and definitely want to get to that if we have time for questions at the end, because that is very important. And for some reason, there are still people that are resistant to play, but I'm hoping to change it. Okay, so going back, we're going to go to, so now going into team building, and that's adding that level of what's the individual experience and how can you learn from differences and similarities in how people experience it. So some of the prompts to think about that we've asked teams to think about when you're doing a game at this level is, how does situations affect you? What are the elements of the situation of the environment that affect how you show up? What are patterns in your own behavior? Like, oh yeah, I tend to do really well, or I tend to get really stressed, or I tend to not be able to focus when X happens. So patterns of whether it's who you're with, or what the situation is, or what your mood is. Looking for ways that maybe you could try something differently next time, where we're altering your behavior, your reaction a little bit might affect the outcome. Spaces to encourage and accommodate others. How can you show up the way you show up, maybe help other people show up at their best self. and expanding collective awareness. So just some of the things to keep in mind. I see someone put so meta. Yes, it's all very, very meta. It ends up being like Inception, where it's like you're playing the game to bring reflections on how people reflect, on how they reflect, and it gets wild. So we're going to use Miro in a moment to do a game called Visionary. And in this game, we're going to do one practice round where I'll be the visionary and I'll have a couple of people be volunteers. And then again, we're going to go into breakouts so everybody gets a chance at practicing. But in this game, one person is the visionary who is looking at a picture on their computer and has to describe that picture to their teammates, who simultaneously are drawing that picture only based on the verbal instructions of the visionary. So you get it, well, something for the visionary, something is very clear in their head, and it should seem like, well, if I just say this, what it is, it'll make sense to everybody else, but there's so many details in the picture that people can't see. And there's a lot to dive into there. And it's all in a short period of time. It's in a 2-minute timer. So it gets a little bit crazy. Now we're gonna go into Miro. And wait a moment for Miro to load. So for this first round, I will describe the picture. If you go to, if you want to share the Miro board in the chat, and where it says Visionary Round 1, this board.
You should be seeing it in Butter as well. It opens
Yeah.
up in Butter for everyone, Alex. So if you bring everyone to you for your Visionary Round 1, everyone should already be seeing the Miro board.
Bring everyone to me. Perfect.
Yep. If you're not seeing the Miro board, just write a message in chat and we'll figure out how to help you troubleshoot and give you the link if necessary.
All right. So there's a little over on the side of Miro, there's a little like pen icon that will let you draw. It's very clunky, so please take any artistic talents and standards you have for yourself and drop them very, very low. If you just want to practice doing a little drawing or doodle. And there is a click. Oh, there's something that's like a smart shape setting that you want to turn off, but I can't remember how to do that. Well, we'll just see how it goes. Oh, if you click on the little menu for pen, there's an option that says smart drawing. It has a little picture of shapes. Click that off, so then it won't automatically try to convert your doodle into.
Yeah. Alex, if you lock the box around it, that won't move around with it, everyone too.
If I lock the box around
your thick lined box.
Oh,
Yep.
Is that moving around?
Yep, just lock it and then we'll be good.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Says it's locked.
Yeah, it should be now.
Okay.
Oh no, it's okay.
Okay, so now we're going to clear this. And are there 4 volunteers who would like to do this first round with me?
I'll volunteer, Alex.
Can be
Perfect.
the tribute to.
I'll volunteer.
We had a lot of people kind of are already drawing here. Do you need to make a new box?
All right. Okay.
Yes, I think I need to make a new box. And so for everybody else who is not drawing, look at these questions over on the side, the questions for observers. So just think about those in your mind.
Who do we have? Who's volunteering? I know Cheska and myself. Who else? Mim? Okay.
More. Okay.
One
well,
more.
First one in the queue. Okay. Perfect.
Got it. You got it, Jessica?
Yep.
All right. So I just created a new frame. And I am setting a timer for 2 minutes. So it's 2 minutes for me to describe while the drawers are drawing. And Let's do it. So in this round, you're each doing a different picture. So if you each want to take sort of one corner of this frame to draw this. And so for the 4 draws, you just want to stake out a corner of frame 1. Oh, perfect.
Can you bring everyone over to frame 1 here? Because it just make sure that we're all in the right spot.
Yes.
There you go.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. All these options that I'm getting used to. This is great. All right, so do we have the 4 drawers ready? And everybody else is thinking about those questions as you're listening to me describe and watching our teammates draw. Drawers, good to go?
We're ready. Let's go.
Okay. So I'm going to give you the 2 seconds of an overview and then go into detail. It's a just sketch drawing, just black pen on a white background, no colors. And it's an owl. And the owl it's mainly just the head and the neck. And it's sort of peeking in from the left side of the frame. And so if you draw like a big round head, the owl head takes up pretty much the entire frame. A big round head. And then in the middle of that head, taking up almost the whole space of that circle, is a heart. Like the face is the shape of a heart, but with a rounded bottom instead of a pointy bottom. So it has like the 2 lumps at the top of the heart and rounded. And so you have the big circle head and then the heart-shaped face. And then inside the heart, almost at the middle, from top to bottom within that heart, are 2 round eyes. 2 very, very round eyes. And then underneath those eyes, closer to the bottom of the heart it looks like the letter V. It's the beak. But there's no top to it. So it's like an open upside down triangle. And then you can see a little bit of the owl's neck at the bottom, sort of going from the center of the screen down to the bottom left of the screen. But that, I would say, focusing on the face is more important. Any clarifying questions looks like time is up. Perfect. Excellent. This is beautiful. I'm going to pull up the owl and show that on the screen, and then we can go back to...
That was hard. I started drawing like while you were talking, and I was like, oh, wait, I should listen.
So this is what I was describing. And you can see it's a pretty simple picture, but describing it is anything but simple. So now I'm going to go back to the Miro board, and would just love to hear from anybody, just maybe a couple people, what did you notice? What came out in watching that game and listening to the instructions and thinking about, noticing how you felt or what you were thinking? Does anyone want to feel free to either put in the chat or unmute yourself and share?
Lori has a comment. I'm going to pass you the mic, Lori.
It reminds me of something I just saw a little video clip the other day on facilitation. And they talked about the importance of trying to contain your instructions to 3 and making them very short, very simplified, and starting with an action verb. And so as you were doing it, what I'm thinking about is instruction, silent, sit, wait, instruction, silent, sit, wait. And then I had the observation that someone else just shared that they're drawing before the instructions are there. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, that's excellent. Is there's, we often tend to just talk off the cuff, but if you're trying to get outcomes from somebody else, you're trying to make sure there's a certain takeaway. There's a lot that you can do in how you structure what you say and how you pace what you say, and thinking about being more effective. There's infinite ways that you can describe even the simplest image or simplest concept. Who else wants to share?
Well, I, as a participant, Alex, for me, I was trying really hard not to erase. So, because you see, I started twice. I was like, no, that's not the point of this. It's not the point to be perfect. And so I think for me, that is a really nice thing to warm people's brains up with, that it's not about erasing or being perfect. Looks like we've got another comment here.
Yeah.
I passed you the mic, but I don't know where you are to highlight you.
Vasuda here.
Yeah.
So I was one of the participants, and what I found, and maybe I missed it, what I found interesting was I don't think you actually gave the moment of saying, don't start drawing, because I realized that as you were starting to describe, we were going ahead and then coming back. Because once you said owl, we're all like, yeah, we know what this means. And then you kind of stop listening as a participant. So I think it's very interesting. And I've been on your side. I haven't been on this side in a while. So it's very interesting to be like, yes, like actually I should pay attention to the instructions. So some cues to line up to say, listen till the end of this, something like that, like in, what we get in tests.
Yeah, and that's how, yeah. And so when you're facilitating, there's so many elements of the experience that you can sort of control. And so sometimes I'll purposefully say, don't draw immediately, or sometimes I won't, because that can be a really interesting observation to make about the people you're working with. Who are the people that have to wait until they feel like they have enough information to even make the most minute step towards action? And who are the people that are like, okay, I heard a word that I understand and I'm just going to move on it. And right from the beginning of a project, that can cause some tension. And so just looking at like, how do people interpret that? And how do people internalize their role is such an important meta reflection to have a team dynamic to dig into.
I just wrote in the chat, Alex, I like that you intentionally didn't say that, because when people have those aha moments themselves, I think it's actually more impactful. And I'm glad you didn't say it and that I did the wrong thing.
So. No, and there's no right and wrong. I mean, that's so interesting. And one of the things that we do is we teach other facilitators how to facilitate games, and how to look at what are the aha moments that you're looking to inspire, and how can you structure everything from picking the game to picking, to planning the instructions, to pacing it, to what reflection questions. How do you make it most likely that game is going to yield those insights? And so it gets into using play in a really, really purposeful way.
Alex, I think Cheska has a comment too, so I'm going to pass her the
just
mic.
a very quick one. Actually, it's a bit related to what you and Vasuda said. Like as a participant, or the one who was needing to draw, I just felt, because you mentioned we needed to draw an owl, that gave me, okay, this is what I need to do. But then like some of the other extra instructions was a bit more of like things that I was adding to what was already in my head as context, rather than actually fully following you, if that made sense.
Yeah. Oh, and I mean, that's another huge takeaway, is just the connotations that we already have to certain words, or certain ideas, because of whatever life experience we've had. And we forget that maybe, some people might have pictured an owl up in a tree. Some people might have pictured a flying owl. Some people might have pictured the owl from Harry Potter. Owl, okay, it's an owl, but there's a billion different ways that an owl could look, or context that an owl could be in. And everybody's going to come to it from a very different place. So I want to give you all a chance to practice this. So we're going to go into breakout groups. And I have, if you widen out on the board, there's a whole bunch of different frames, and each one has a group number. So your breakout group will have a number, and you'll just find the corresponding board to that.
And the board should open, Alex, in everyone's breakout room. It should automatically open for you. But if for any reason it doesn't, hit the little help button and we'll pop in there for you.
Perfect. And so once you decide someone in your group to be the visionary, there's a link in the breakout room instructions that the visionary can click on to get to the image that you're going to draw. I'm going to put it on the honor system that only the visionary will look at the image and other people will not. And then
does everyone know where that is, Alex? Sorry.
So it will be in the instructions in your breakout room. There will be a link that says visionary. Click the link here.
Sorry, I missed that.
If you can't find it, I'm happy. No, great to clarify. Glad you feel comfortable asking clarifying questions. That means I'm setting the tone in a productive way. Yeah, and if somebody just wants to make sure to put that timer on, whether you want to use the timer that's in Miro or use your phone or something, and do 2 minutes. But in these groups, I want you to, rather than each person drawing their own picture, I want you to work together to draw one picture. So there's an element of coordination and collaboration as well. So questions? No.
Cheska, you get the rooms for us again here, or?
Yep, I think you want to start it now? All good.
Yeah, are we ready? Alex, are we ready?
Yeah, I think we're ready.
Okay, great.
Welcome back. I know this is very short, and there's a lot going on. Maybe you didn't get to finish, but I wanted to make sure that we do get time to do the next activity. But now I have some questions, some reflective questions about Visionary up on the screen. And we're not going to have time to talk about all of these, but just to get you thinking, what did you notice about how you approach the game? What details were most important to you? What could have made the instructions more helpful? And then I want to hear some insights on this last one, is how might your experience in the game, the insights that you have, how might you be able to apply that in your work? So if anybody wants to either share in the chat or unmute yourself and pop in, I would love to hear your on Visionary. Anybody want to share? Oh, perfect. Let's do Mark.
Approach the game was, are we drawing together? Are we doing our own individual piece? Who's leading this? So there was like lots of questions, and because of the short amount of time, it was hard to sort of coordinate that. So even from the point of view of people speaking over each other and then pausing and then like, what's going on, until I think everyone decided we're just going to do whatever we think, and kind of whoever was the first to put their pen on paper gets there, and then carry on from there. Yeah.
When you're short on time, which it seems like so often, in meetings and events, there isn't enough time. What gets sacrificed, and if a team recognizes that that's a pattern, then maybe you could say, first, let's just say, what's our priority? What's the number one thing we want to make sure we decide? So at least we get something done and it's not just chaos. So there's a way to level that type of insight up to what can we learn from it and do differently next time. Thanks, Mark. Merrick.
Add that I was in reflection after watching the first one, made me want to listen more before acting.
Mm-hmm.
Which made it difficult. And this made it difficult for us to start.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And because this is such a quick and simple game, it's really easy to do multiple rounds, and in between talk about what do you want to try to do differently. And how could I give instructions better, or how might we spend more time listening, or how might maybe in advance we decide what's going to be the most important. What's the purpose? Is it to create the most accurate representation? Is it to have fun? Is it to make sure everybody's included? Is it to draw something that is funny? Like what's the goal? And to clarify that focus. Yeah, great insight. Let's see, who's next? Ainhoa? Yeah.
Yes. So for me, on how I approach this game, and actually resonates a lot how I feel at work. That is, as we had to do it collectively. For me, it was. I needed to understand what was the role of each other, or when do we all draw? Do we does everyone one by one, just one instruction, or yes, for me it was necessary at the beginning of the exercise, and it did. I mean, the team voted that no, let's go with the flow, and I was a little bit anxious on that.
Yeah,
it worked out really well.
I'm sorry that you felt anxious, but that's such an important insight to come up with, something that's really important to you, and for you to feel like you can be your best and do your best. That's something that you need.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. We'll do Linda and then Guy, and then we'll move on to the next and final exercise.
Yeah, I don't know if you can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good, because I couldn't figure out where I am and how to turn my microphone off. So for me, I found that I need to see things. It's one of the reasons I take notes, whether I ever go back to them or not, is that I hear it and then I need to see it to process it. And so I found if I got distracted by other noises in the room or something and didn't pay enough attention to what she was saying at the beginning, I lost. I had no idea what we were drawing. Because I missed the first bit, and so then I'm like, okay, and I didn't have anything to write down. I didn't have any instructions, so I tend to tune out and shut down. So that tells me about, when you're talking with a team about and giving instructions, if people aren't following your instructions, it may be because they process things differently and need written instructions in addition to the verbal ones.
Yeah, that's so important. And something else in there too is, when you're doing that collaboratively, there tends to be this tendency, okay, drawing is the most obvious thing that people need to do. And so everybody needs to draw. But what if one person's job was to listen to the instructions and make notes? So if someone was like, oh, what did they say about this element? There's somebody who's recording that. And someone else's job might be to keep a look on the timer so everybody doesn't have to keep looking back and forth. So there's others, and when you have a team of people, there's ways to leverage different strengths and different tendencies so that everybody is focusing on a piece of it and doesn't have to focus on everything. Thanks, Linda. That was a great insight. Last comment from Guy.
I love drawing, sketching personally, but I always know that I need some warm up into it. And I know that when facilitating and asking people to draw, sometimes people have that sort of creative threshold to cross first before they feel just a bit confident to draw and to share that. I also have a bit of I don't mind using Miro, and it's not the greatest thing to do for drawing. It's much easier when you have a pen or a pencil in your hand to sketch on paper. So yeah, I think I like how this is definitely relevant to my work, because about people sharing stories and having that sort of give and take and listening to each other to do it. But I'm conscious that an exercise like Visionary would probably need a couple of warm-up exercises beforehand to help a group build their confidence up towards doing it effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And there's some also great insights in there about when you're introducing a new tool, just people's different levels of comfort with new technology. Some people will be like, oh, I'll find the pencil and I'll just figure it out. And some people are like, I'm not going to draw anything on the screen that other people can see because I've never used this before. And there's a lot to dig into there too. So yeah, great insights. Thank you. Well, that's a really simple game that you can do virtually. You can do it in person. There are a million different threads that you can pull in terms of reflection and how to apply that. So I hope that was valuable for you. And especially with the team building focus of what can you learn about yourself and other people, and how can those insights help you in your work together. So we're going to do one more. We're going to go down to the bottom of the iceberg now, team development, which normally takes the most time, but we don't have a ton of time. So I'll just sort of explain it and give you a little bit of a sample. And I was just talking to Rachel about maybe scheduling another one of these sessions where we can do this activity in depth if people are interested in going through it. But in team development, you're really getting into what are the dynamics in this team. What do people need to succeed? What understandings do they need to have about each other? How do they make decisions together? How do they agree on shared assumptions that are needed to move forward? So with team development, you can use Visionary is actually a great game for this level. It's just a different type of reflection. But I'll show you, this is a simulation. We call it a simulation instead of a game. But one thing I just want to point out, when you're getting into that team development where you want there to be very specific learning outcomes and change outcomes, and this is something else that we have a lot of resources on, is picking the right game that's going to create the right emotional and learning experience. So there's all of these different game mechanics, which are the specific elements of a game, that either the activities that you have to take or the type of challenge. And each one of those game mechanics is going to create a different emotional experience and require that people interact in a different way. So with team development, you want to pay even more attention to, are you picking the right game? Does the game have the right mechanics to create those learning outcomes that you are trying to facilitate? So just wanted to point this out there as another level of planning. So for this, it's a simulation. So there's a scenario, and the team essentially takes on the role of a leadership team at an amusement park that has to decide where to build a new ride for next year. And we give intentionally incomplete and confusing clues, and they have to work together to figure out how to make sense of the clues. So we're not going to have time for the full thing, but so here's the storyline. Helium is a premier amusement park, and it just finished a record-breaking season. And now you are getting all the performance data from that season, visitor satisfaction, inspections from the safety inspectors, revenue and cost information. And you're pulling that data together to figure out, where do we want to build an attraction for next year. And in the full version of this, there's 2 different tasks. The first task is just you give everyone the clues, and you give them a certain amount of time to try to make sense of the clues and come up with clarifying questions. So you're saying you're not trying to get to an answer here. You are just trying to make sense of the questions and figure out what information do you still need. And then the second round is, once you've gotten some clarification from the facilitator, now you're parsing through the data and the clues and trying to pick a new attraction. So for today, we're just going to go into the breakouts for 5 minutes. And I'll give you what the clues are, and you're just going to have a conversation and try to make sense of what those clues are. But again, what I want you to pay more attention to is how you're working together. What are ways how could you structure that conversation so that it would be helpful? And so don't worry about getting it right, but more just focus on what are the dynamics and what do you need. So you will see, go into your breakouts, and you will see a screen that looks like this. And so it's totally supposed to be confusing and unclear. But just in 5 minutes, have that conversation trying to figure out what this means. So I'll pause here. Questions before we go into the breakout. So you're not going to get to finish. You're not going to get to pick the right spot. It's just,
Alex, can you put that screen up one more time, just so I can take a screenshot for the chat, just in case they can't see it in their rooms?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. So in your breakouts, you should have a Butter board that shows up with this in the middle of it. So if you want to take notes around that, a Butter board is the integrated whiteboard in Butter. And those should be opening up in your breakouts, which Cheska will start for us in a second here. And if you have any issues, just hit your help button and we will pop in and help you.
Perfect. I think I'm also just gonna put because some people were having issues with the task overview. We'll just put the instructions for breakout in chat and also at the Butter board. So I'll delete everything here. See you guys in a bit. I'll play some music while we're waiting for
Yeah.
people.
And I pinned your other question in there. I didn't see any other ones quite yet, Alex. So yay.
Welcome back. I'm sure that those were very frustrating and rushed conversations. While you were in the breakout groups, I was talking with Rachel and Cheska, and we're going to offer another time to do that full simulation. So if you're interested in going through the whole thing and finding out the answer and having all your questions answered, we'll do that. But I just wanted to give you a sample. But you could see that the team dynamics in that one were more complex. And so if you really wanted to dig into issues of team performance and change and deeper conversations, that would be a great tool. So for the rest of the time, I would just love to take your questions. And also, so if you have questions, if you want to enter the queue, but also if there's questions you want to put in the chat, Rachel's also going to share all my contact information. So if you are curious,
that should already be in the chat there and pinned.
So please, happy to schedule a one-on-one conversation. Happy to share more information if you're interested in bringing games into your facilitation. I love nothing more than sharing all of this with other people. So
Alex, let's can we tackle the question about if people are resistant to play, and we can kind of wrap up on that, and then I'll start our ending poll.
Sure. Yeah, so there's some different types of resistance. Sometimes people just hear the word play and are like, we don't want to play. And so if you're talking with the client about wanting to bring some in, maybe use like learning activities or experiential learning exercises, and don't use the word games or play, and be a little bit sneaky about that. If it's in the session and there's somebody who's really resistant to engage, that's probably a team dynamic that is not unique to that session. That could be somebody who, might be a little bit of a, wants to be an outlier, or doesn't feel comfortable, or feels like they're better than the people they work with. And so it could be a gentle way to start working in through that. And you can always, I like to give the option of, you can be an observer, but it's an active role. And so here are the reflection questions to think about. But then you can also pose, why are you resistant? What's behind your reluctance to join in? And maybe have a private conversation with that person after, or with their manager, and sort of ask if that's a recurring pattern and if that's something you need to work on. So it's again, sort of going to that meta level, or that meta level of what patterns might that suggest. Yeah, hope that was helpful. And if there's another, if the question was meant in a different way, I'm happy to reframe it.
That I just, as you're talking, people could still ask questions. I'm just curious from everyone today what your biggest aha moment from today was. And as we're asking any questions, we can kind of see what comes in there as well.
Any other questions or comments, thoughts?
Yes, I have some. I think my experience with playing online, it's also sometimes good to have some play partners in small groups, to have different plays. The bigger the group becomes, the more difficult, and the less time we have, the more frustration we take out of it. So it's just, I always love to meet people and to say, okay, we meet for a game or something to find out about it. Always, the more we know the skills, the more we know the tool, the more we are stable with, and don't take to be afraid or whatever inside, and to have because if we only have one person who is just a little bit stressed out and takes into the room, it just takes over. It's some energy. I think it's the more playful, joyful energy we can hold in a space, and the more safe we feel, or the more secure we do it, the better.
Yeah, I love that. And if you're going into, if the purpose, think about back to the iceberg, is that the deeper levels, you want to make sure that people are coming into that not carrying stress, or you know, negative feelings from whatever else is going on in their life. And so bringing in just a very short, light touch, more bonding, playful, creative thinking, just to change people's energy before, so that they're in a better place to be in that mindset. Yeah, that's so important. Thank you.
Alex, oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to ask, I think one of the things that I observed today, as well as in other facilitative environments, is this idea of setting time, but then that creates an artificial pressure, and then it kind of creates a level of anxiety sometimes. I think I felt it most in the drawing. I mean, today was the drawing as well as the latest exercise. Do you have any tips on managing that? Because I think in a work environment, everybody often feels time and deadlines have a certain way of getting in the way of play. So thank you.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because for every person who feels that sense of pressure, there's somebody else that needs that deadline to feel motivated. And so that's a really great thing to talk about, or what are people's relationship to a deadline and having a tight time constraint. And for the people who thrive on that, for them to be aware that not everybody feels that way, and maybe they need to be a little bit, you know, make sure that you're leaving time for people, for the people who have more questions or who need a little bit more time to process before they can fully engage. You know, what can they do? And for the people who feel really stressed, maybe there's things that your teammates can do that will help you feel better. Or maybe there's, you know, something you can advocate for is like, can I get written instructions ahead of time? So when I come into the discussion, it's time to start performing, I already have a little bit of background. You know, so how can you leverage, again, the diversity in the team, to help everybody and help the overall outcome? That's a great question. Yeah, Guy.
Alexandra, firstly, thanks for the talk today. I've really enjoyed it. I'm just curious, like, what to, you know, for teams, particularly to really encourage team collaboration, sharing. What is your sort of, if you're planning a workshop, what is your sort of go-to game or play activity to really sort of address team collaboration?
Yeah, actually, Visionary is kind of my Swiss Army knife because it's so quick and so easy to do, and there's so many different ways that you can set it up. And you could do, if sometimes I'll do a round first where everybody's drawing individually and they're like, okay, I feel like I get this and I'm going to do much better next time. And then you say, now you're doing this where you're coming up with one picture, but you're working together. And what are the different elements of collaboration? And, you know, it immediately gets that much harder. And just having that conversation about why was it harder, or what other components of the situation were present that weren't in the first round, and what were some of the opportunities for working with the team can create a better outcome. What are some of the areas where working with a team can lead to worse outcomes, and just exploring what collaboration is. And then again, because you could do multiple rounds, you can practice different approaches to collaborating.
So I love this conversation. We got so much going on. Unfortunately, we do have to end for today. As we're over our time. But what I would love is if you're part of the Butter community, or if you're not yet, there's a link in the chat. We'd love to get a thread going in the Butter community. We'll make sure, Alex, we get you in there as well. And we'll start asking some of these questions. It might help us prep for the session that we're going to have again as a follow-up with Alex, and see if we can get some of those questions ahead of time. So please feel free to join us there. I just want to say thank you to everyone, and thank you to Alex. This was fantastic. Very exciting. I learned so much. I had some aha moments there myself. Just keep an eye out for the recap, both in the, we usually send those on the Butter community, and you can find them there. So we hope to see you there. Again, thank you, Alex. Thank you, Cheska, for your lovely co-facilitation as always. And thank you.
Thanks
Bye,
so much.
everyone.
I look forward to talking with you all soon.
It's fun.
Bye.